Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine. In this episode, I'm going to share the astrology update for March 2026. Listen up. We are still in erratic eclipse energies with a lunar eclipse coming on 3/3. Stay tuned for part 2, March 2026 Astro Update, where I share sun sign forecasts for each zodiac sign. Welcome to eclipse season, March 2026. Here are the key dates in March. Mercury is retrograde since the 26th of February through March 20th. Then there's the lunar eclipse, Virgo full moon on March 3rd. Venus transits Aries from March 6th through March 30th. Jupiter turns direct in Cancer on March 10th. There's a Pisces New Moon on March 18th. And yay, spring is here when the sun shifts into Aries at the Vernal Equinox on March 20th. And the same day, Mercury goes direct on March 20th. March roars in like a lion on Qualudes with Mercury retrograde in Pisces through March 20th. And there's a Blood Moon Lunar Eclipse on 3/3. There will be disturbances in the force and fear-mongering out in the world with an eclipse and Mercury retrograde in early March. Saturn surges through early Aries, launching a long-term transit from 2026 through 2028, which amplifies the themes of structure, discipline, accountability, and defining realistic action plans. You've got to bring it home with Saturn and Aries, start anew, and put your money where your mouth is. And Mars is pulsing through Pisces during March until April 9th, when he mobilizes in his home court Aries. Mars in Pisces through March brings compassion-driven action, creative force, and sometimes diffuse energy, which can be used, though, for intuitive or healing work. And we have to take advantage of the last month of Uranus transiting through Taurus. There's an ongoing revolution of our values, financial and material security frameworks. Before Uranus transits into Gemini during late April, we will feel like we are straddling dimensions at a crossroads, and perhaps living in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Altered realities and time distortion pervades as the Great Awakener Uranus is leaving Taurus after 7 years and going into Gemini in April. And guess what? It's going to get batshit crazy when it goes to Gemini in April. We need to make the most of the anchoring of the Uranus and Taurus and get your money, houses in order. So as we see this shift happening with Uranus, the Great Awakener, the change maker, there are going to be altered realities and time distortion. Thanks, Mercury retrograde in Pisces, adding to that. Many are feeling the toll of non-physical energies on their bodies. In other words, we're having ascension symptoms, and people are feeling things moving around, and one day they can have a lot of energy, and the next day they're wiped out. Uranus leaving Taurus, Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it's all happening at the same time in March. Timelines are ending and colliding at the same time. Early March feels tentative, as if the other shoe is about to drop. Something is coming, and we can feel it and sense it. Clarity will be obscured by the lunar eclipse on 3/3. So the days leading up and for the weeks after, and then Mercury retrograde in Pisces until March 20th, occludes with illusion and confusion. All our release and shadow work comes in handy now with Mercury retrograde in Pisces until March 20th. With Mercury retrograde in Pisces, you may experience enhanced intuition, vivid dreams, heightened imagination, and blasts from the past. But watch for blurred boundaries, confusing communications, active addictions, and projections onto others. Remember to use your RE or RE words, as in resolve relationship issues, release old narratives, reassess clarity versus illusions. Remember, communications need more clarity. Revise projects that you may have started in late January through early February. The proverbial shit hits the fan right at the get-go of March with the lunar eclipse on March 3rd, exasperated by Mercury retrograde. Eclipse season continues from late February into early March, which is carrying a highly charged energy. We had the solar eclipse on February 17th, and the lunar eclipse looms on March 3rd, activating deep transformation, especially around identity, relationships, emotional truth, false narratives, endings, and beginnings. The key focus is the Virgo Pisces axis during the eclipse on March 3rd because it's a full moon in Virgo while the sun is in Pisces. Always during an eclipse, it's a full moon, a lunar eclipse, and it's always going to activate a polarity of the zodiac. So on March 3rd, it's the Virgo Pisces axis. So that being said, we're going to be looking at the Virgo side, which is influencing our health, our routines, our work systems, and our service. On the Pisces end of the eclipse, we have to look and become more emotionally discerning. Pay attention to the soul it's trying to integrate in some way. And realize or recognize, with Virgo being the full moon, where perfectionism or avoidance no longer serves. So this full moon lunar eclipse on March 3rd will bring a recalibration of boundaries between practical life and inner truth. And this goes towards mid-month when we have a new moon in Pisces on March 18th, and then the sun enters Aries on March 20th. So March is like 2 months. March is bridging completion and release with fresh starts, with spiritual intention and bold action. The big eclipse episode arrives on 3/3 with the Blood Moon full moon lunar eclipse. It will be visible in Eastern and Western North America, Central America, Australia and New Zealand, Eastern Asia, and the Pacific. Remember, those areas where the eclipse falls will be affected by weather anomalies and geomagnetic earth shifts in the coming months. This eclipse is part of an ongoing Virgo Pisces eclipse series that started in September 2024 and concludes in February 2027, with a focus on healing, service, intuition, and integration of inner and outer realities. So the theme of the eclipse on March 3rd is completion and release. Lunar eclipses naturally bring culmination, endings, and revelations. In Virgo, this will reveal where our health, routines, systems, or details of daily life have been out of alignment. The moon is opposing the sun in Pisces. So there's an interplay between the practical realities of Virgo and the deep intuition, spiritual sensitivity of Pisces, exposing blind spots or deeper emotional needs. So we're torn between the practical and material plane, and the spiritual or soulful experience in our lives. It will certainly be a powerful lunar eclipse. And as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, we feel the fallout of eclipses for at least the 3 months after. And remember, they come 6 months apart. So the next series of eclipses will be in August 2026. And as always, it's important to know, where is the Virgo Pisces axis in your natal birth chart? Because those two realms or those two houses will be affected. So contact your favorite astrologer, Jill Jardine, at jilljardine.com. You can now access all my services through the website jilljardine.com. So then, with this full moon lunar eclipse, what's Mercury's role? Because Mercury is retrograde in Pisces, close to the natal sun during the eclipse. Mercury retrograde in Pisces intensifies inner dialogue and reassessment. So it will bring back people, information, or conversations that need closure or reevaluation around this eclipse season. So leading up to the eclipse, it's usually felt about 1 to 2 weeks before, which is actually 2 weeks before is when the companion solar eclipse occurred, February 17th. However, it's felt for months after. And as I've said before, a lot of people decide to leave their bodies during eclipse windows. They have work to do on other planes. And this eclipse on March 3rd is no exception. We can tell how many people are actually leaving by the number of celebrities who are dying. Quite a few famous people, more than a few, actually died in the month of February 2026. So we'll see even more leaving. Hi there, this is Jill Jardine, host of Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, and I have some news for you. Some of you know that I have a book that's published called Sacred Sound Formulas to Awaken the Modern Mind, Sanskrit Mantras to Raise Your Vibration. Well, now I have the companion oracle cards for Sacred Sound Formulas to Raise Your Vibration. You're going to have a lot of fun with these. You pull a card, you get the mantra that will help you at whatever moment you pick the card, and so much more. So make sure you go online and order yours now, jilljardine.com. At this full moon lunar eclipse on March 3rd, the astrological polarity of Virgo, where the moon will be, and Pisces, the sun, is trigger, and those born during those sun signs will be affected strongly. Remember, in previous podcasts, I have spoken about the Virgo-Pisces axis related to health and healing, where Virgo is more traditional or allopathic medicine, and Pisces is energy medicine or spiritual healing. This lunar eclipse will trigger new patterns in society. If we look at the Aries in astrology, Virgo and Pisces rule over, we can predict where there will be potential risks. Pisces rules diseases that are hard to diagnose or that can be insidious or spread fast, sudden outbreaks, or permeate boundaries, whether in the body or where they're contracted from, in other words, another part of the world. So in other words, diseases coming in from unexpected places or other countries. Also, Pisces rules water, so there may be more inundations, floods, blizzards, storms, tidal waves around this blood full moon. Virgo is an earth sign, so there may be earth rumblings across the planet in the days and months after the eclipse, perhaps most likely in those areas where the eclipse path fell. The other thing, Pisces is about borders, and we may see more news about immigrants, migrations, and the like. Virgo rules health and nutrition. Get ready to hear news about things related to healthcare and medical interventions, the food supply. There could be issues regarding shortages. We're going to look at the monopolies in health, including big pharma, health insurance, big farm and agro monopolies. We'll find out things that maybe were hid from us. Hopefully not that our food supply is contaminated, but there are issues there that will continue to be exposed. Virgo, like Pisces, is a very healing and compassionate sign. But Virgo energy is far more practical and based in the material realm. Virgo likes to be organized, methodical, and takes a down-to-earth approach. Piscean energy does not follow such rigid ideas.
No, I don't think so.
And wants more freedom and flexibility. Pisces rules spirituality, but can also become zealous, overly religious, and even cultish. Virgo can be rigid in outlook with the view that things can only be a certain way or that their way is the right way. So we may see some religious leaders or politicians or groups trying to be very controlling and usurp or take power in some way that is not balanced or not rooted in law or other ways in the coming months. This full moon lunar eclipse occurs at 13 degrees Virgo. The Sabian symbol for this lunar eclipse is, quote, a woman in springtime standing beneath a cherry tree in blossom. How lovely. This image evokes renewal, blossoming awareness, nurturance, growth through care and mindfulness, all very Virgo-like. So the Virgo symbol is about grounding that wisdom into practical nurturance, care, and blossoming clarity. Meanwhile, the sun is occurring at Pisces 13 degrees. The Sabian symbol for Pisces 13 is, quote, children playing around 5 mounds of sand. This imagery suggests innocence, imagination, playful exploration, and simplicity amidst complex inner landscapes. So the Pisces symbol is about rediscovering joy, intuitive wisdom, and childlike wonder as antidotes to any kind of overwhelm going on there in the society. So at this eclipse, perhaps we need to bring our intuitive insight into grounded, real world expression, gently and creatively rather than through Virgo perfectionism. And also we can see that there are people in our society who just want to grow and move forward like buds of the cherry tree blossoming in the spring. And then there are people who just want to have fun.
Hallelujah!
So when things get heavy, people may not want to deal with what's going on in society or check out and return to easier times. Very interesting. So follow your heart is basically the message, and nurture those things in your life that you want to see grow in the coming months. The next transit that happens after the eclipse is Venus shifting out of passive Pisces into assertive energy on March 6th.
Goodbye.
So we'll see with Venus in Aries more bold affection, fiery creativity, and assertiveness. We may see more passion.
Ooh,
People
la,
will
la.
want to be seen. There'll be more leadership. And so Venus in Aries will be very different than Venus going through Pisces. Basically, Venus in Aries, don't put baby in a corner. See me. And people will pursue the object of their desire instead of just passively waiting to be noticed. Spring comes early with Venus in Aries. Then another big shift by big boy planet Jupiter, the jolly giant, going direct in Cancer on March 10th. bringing blessings from the cosmic Santa Claus, who's been cloistering for the past months in retrograde. So perhaps our good has been eluding us, with Jupiter exalted in Cancer kind of hiding out and not being forthcoming. However, that all changes on March 10th when we start seeing outward manifestation of Jupiter's boons by the Pisces New Moon of March 18th and in the coming months. On March 18th, we do have the Pisces New Moon in late degree Pisces, and it will be really nice and sweet, a dreamy, intuitive lunation that invites setting intentions around compassion, creativity, healing, and inner guidance. Get your spiritual self on, because, again, it's the last, Pisces being the last zodiac sign, so it's the last new moon of the astrological year. The astrological year starts at the spring equinox, March 20th this year. So make the most of clearing what is still residual energy in your life. It is a new moon. You can set those intentions, but remember, Mercury's retrograde, so they may not feel the full effect until after Mercury's direct, after March 20th. So we can use the Pisces new moon on March 18th to dissolve old fears and boundaries, invite spiritual or artistic renewal. It's really a good time to do your meditations, your inner work, your yoga, soul align intentions. And the beautiful thing is the moon and sun are receiving love from Uranus in Taurus, which can help with creative breakthroughs and give us a little gift before Uranus leaves Taurus in April. So it's a really powerful time to go within, heal old emotional baggage, get some deeper intuitive insight, and maybe even some karmic messages before moving forward. And then get ready to launch and celebrate in a pagan way at the vernal equinox, when Mercury goes direct and the Aries ingress begins as the sun swoops into the warrior sign on March 20th, ushering in the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, while the southern hemisphere enters autumnal equinox. Light those bonfires and set your intentions now. We've been waiting to get through the Mercury retrograde and eclipses, and now we can celebrate the return of the light in the northern hemisphere. Days and nights are of equal length. Here comes the sun. Anything we initiate at this spring equinox has staying power for the remainder of the year. Choose your activities and output wisely. Take some action, exercise, dance, move, shake. Become a mover and shaker. Do something new and different. Become adventurous and enterprising. Pluto in early Aquarius throws harmonious aspects to Aries planets, empowering any new impulses or activities we launch at this time. Out with the old, in with the new. When Pluto, purging planet, ruler of death, transformation, and rebirth, ignites the Aries fires of initiation and independence. And don't forget, Saturn and Neptune are in those early degrees of Aries, as they recently made their conjunction on February 20th. So it's go time. Launch, initiate, ignite. We are on the verge of an evolutionary shift for individuals and humanity. The spring equinox marks a new seasonal cycle on Mother Earth, and this year it's an Aries fire fest. Make the most of it and set your new reality in motion. I hope you enjoyed this episode on March 2026 astrology update. Make sure you stay tuned to the next episode, which will be the impact of the astrology of Mark on your zodiac sign. So remember to share, download, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, sending Pisces pulses and Aries ignitions into the quantum field. Stop.